So Daniel, we're both self-taught devs. How did that happen? Like what's your story? Like where you're at, where are you at now? You have a job right now as a software engineer,
Yeah, so I've been professionally employed for about a year now. So yeah,
professionally employed for about a year.
yeah.
And then before that, like what were you doing?
Before that, I was a janitor actually. So I was doing my janitor regular job during the day, and then at night I would do all the coding projects. So that was basically 6, 7 months of that.
Took you 6, 7 months of what, doing like web dev work?
Yeah, yeah, basically.
So you made your own experience basically and used that on your resume and then got a job.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you work?
So my story behind that. Do you kind of want
Yeah.
me to go into the
Yeah.
story? Yeah, so my story behind that was I needed to make a website for our my business that I worked as like a janitor. They didn't have a website, so I was like, I want to make their website. So I tried to make their website using like HTML, CSS, and like completely bombed. Like I didn't know what I was doing at all. So then I came across like the framework websites like Wix. Have you heard of like Wix.com? The ones where they give you the static web page.
Yeah.
So I got into that. And then I was able to use like the HTML that I learned inside of the Wix to make like the company website. And that's when I really got onto it, where I was like, man, this is actually kind of cool. And then I started getting into like actual computer science. And this was like um, right after like senior year of high school. So like I had no clue what I was gonna do. I was just like going into like a community college. So like I didn't know. So I was like, let me pick computer science. Now I ended up dropping out. Like,
Same, bro. Comp
did you
sci for
drop?
1 year and then I dropped out.
Really?
Not even 1 year.
That's yeah,
It's going
yeah.
on. But I,
That
I
was
wanted to
basically
drop out so bad the entire time when I was in
me
there.
too. Me too. I
Yeah.
hated it. But going back, it was like senior year. I didn't know what to do. I made this company website and I was like, cool, I like this programming. Maybe I can do this. So I picked computer science as like my major and went to like a community college. The first few months, I like absolutely dreaded it. Like I hated it. I didn't want to be in class. I hated teachers. I thought the teachers was all messed up. The computer science teacher was like dog water. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. So for the first few months though, it kind of like I was like, well, let me see if I like the computer science here. And all they taught was like the theory behind it, which is good to know, but like I just kind of wanted to build stuff. So after class, before class, like any time that I had extra time outside of like my janitor, because I had a janitor job all the way up until like I dropped out, but I used all the extra time to just build and like study coding, like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Like that's all I did, like web dev, like very simple web dev stuff.
No
And
frameworks, just vanilla.
yeah, 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 just vanilla. And it got to the point where I was like, well, if I'm like here in school, I might as well like try to do good in class. So they were like learning Java. This was like 3 months in. They were learning Java. And I was like, let me just like learn it a little bit. So it got to the point where like I knew what the teacher was teaching before he taught it. Like so it because they
Yeah,
go so
but I can
slow.
yeah, it's so slow, snail's
Yeah.
pace. And especially if you're making projects on your own, you just kind of intuitively learn this kind of stuff over time,
Yeah.
much faster through online courses.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was making like Java projects. Uh I made a Java UI. Like so they have a specific framework kind of like HTML and CSS, but for Java. I don't know if you've heard of it, like Java FX.
Java FX, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've used that
So I made like some
before.
like little projects. Like it was like a note app. It was really small, but I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I don't need to go to class anymore because I know everything that he was going to teach me. I literally aced the tests that he gave without going to class. So like I was just like hardcore studying and hardcore like just going all in on code. All the other classes I failed though, so that wasn't very good. But I was like, okay, well, I know I can probably beat. I thought about it logically. I was like, well, I kind of want to drop out. I know if I stay on this pace for the next 4 years, I'm gonna absolutely like kill all of the students. Like, well, not actually, not actually kill them, but like I'm gonna kill them in performance wise. And sure, they'll have like credentials. So but I was like, the credentials versus my experience, like I thought the experience would be more. So that's kind of when I made the decision I'm gonna drop out. And Before I dropped out, though, I heard about a competition, like a what is it called? A coding competition, coding Mac hackathon almost.
Hackathon, coding competition.
Yeah, exactly. And I heard about that right before I was about to drop out, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go to that. So I go to that, and I get a partner that doesn't know how to code. So it's like I'm going to this coding like competition. I'm in this competition, and my partner doesn't know how to code, like in like any language at all. So like he didn't know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Java, Python, like C sharp, like anything. Like he didn't know like anything. So I had to kind of build the whole project. It was like make a project for a fictional company about staffing, something like that. And all you had to do was make a website. No, it wasn't a website. It was like make a
Like an algorithm.
no. It was like something that could actually happen in the world. Like it was like a web UI, a GUI, like a GUI, like an interface, just like an interface where you can upload videos and download videos and like kind of like YouTube. Think of like YouTube but like in Java. Like so
Media player.
yeah, just a media player. Exactly. Yeah. It's just a media player that you can log in and log out of. And that was the task that was given in the hackathon. Like they give you an assignment basically, and whoever did the assignment the best wins. So from there, uh, I did everything. Like they give you a time frame of 4 hours. I coded for like the whole 4 hours. My teammate left through like on like the halfway point because he didn't know anything. So he was like, can I leave? Like you're doing everything." And I was like, I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah. There's nothing you could really do. So he left, and I stayed coding. And I remember the next day is when they were gonna do the results. So it was like a 3-day trip thing. And my teammate's like, "Yeah, I don't think we won, bro. Like, I didn't help you at all. Like, this is bad." And I was like, "No, I think we did good." And I ended up finishing the assignment, but like, I didn't. Obviously, I'm going up against like 30 other teams with people who actually knew how to code. So I was like, "Man, I'm screwed. Like, I'm done for." And no, they were like saying the names, and they were like, third place goes to blah blah blah, second place goes to blah blah blah, and first place goes to like Daniel Gian and his name's Andrew. Andrew, and I was like,
Yes.
oh my god, bro, oh my god, I was so pumped.
10x programmer.
10x programmer, and I was like ecstatic. I was like, oh my gosh, bro, like that's insane. Like, how did I just do that? And like it was like insane, bro, because I was going up against 30 other teams who actually had teammates who knew how to code. They were there, like it wasn't like it was this easy thing. It was like me going up against like these, I don't know, 100 other people. And it was like absolutely bonkers. I got first place in that, and I was like, "Oh my God, like I could really do this." Like I thought me like dropping out was kind of like the worst thing in the world type of thing. I was like, "Man, if I could just like keep like beating other people, it kind of sounds bad, but like if I could just keep this pace, I know I can get far, you know?"
How I see it is you've been self-teaching yourself, and then you go to this coding hackathon, and then you just crush it. So that must just be like, all right, I'm doing something right. What do I need college for if everything I learned in order to get number one in this competition, then why am I going? Like my partner, who I'm guessing was a comp sci student too,
Yeah,
didn't know how
yeah.
to code, but you still managed to get number one while you're
Yeah.
just self-teaching. So that kind of strokes your ego a little bit there, being
Yeah.
like, okay, why am I in here? If I can code this, I could probably get a job and code
Yeah.
other projects as well. That would
Yeah.
make
Exactly.
me be perceived as like a high value candidate when applying to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
companies.
Exactly. And it was crazy. After that, I was like, no, yeah, I'm actually done. I'm done with this. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I need a plan because I'm not just gonna jump out, drop out, and then like look for jobs because it's like, well, you won this, but like, what do you really have? You don't have any certificates or anything. So the first, like, my actual plan, which I think may be really useful to people who are like actually coming up, and this is like the end of my story, the end of like where I am today. Uh, was make I came up with an idea kind of like following Alex Hermosi's brand, which is like make an offer so good they can't say no type of thing.
Yeah.
So have you heard of that before?
Yeah, man, I watched so much Alex
Yeah,
Ramosi.
me too, bro. Me too, like constantly. So I was like, well, how can I make that and make a version of mine, like a version of that
Uh-huh.
for me? And I was like, well, okay, well, how can I make an offer so good that they look stupid saying no as a developer? I was like,
Yeah.
well, I would probably know all their tech stacks. I would probably have built a project with using those tools. I would probably reach out to the manager or whoever's hiring them. I would probably become friends with the people there. That sounds pretty good. So that's like exactly what I did. So I got close to the developers in my local area. I got like two connected. I also met one through a friend. Two of them became mentors. So like in that time period, two of them became mentors, and then one of them became a connection that I later on got a interview with. Um, so she's like, it was a girl. So she was like, hey, like I saw you won this thing, and you're doing pretty good. I can ask for an interview here. I was like, cool. I look at their job application. I look at all their tech stacks. They were using like React. They were using the type of tech stacks that I knew. So it was like JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Like it was a web app. I mean, web dev position. So it was like React and Node.js. It was React and Node.js. And then obviously all the hosting stuff. So it's like Nginx, AWS services, that type of thing. And that kind of helped me. That kind of gave me an edge. So I was like, okay, I already knew JavaScript. I just need to understand like actual framework. That's when I started learning React, and I made a project specifically around their tech stack. So I made I'm
Yes.
really into fitness, so
Oh yeah, me too,
so
man.
I made a fitness web application where you can track your calories. So it would send a like an API request to a food database, and you can search up your food. So you can search up like chicken, and it would come up with the calories, protein, carbs, things like that, and it would track it. It was really simple. It was just kind of like storing your
Yeah.
calories and like subtracting it from a goal if you have one.
Like
And
My Fitness Pal API, something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly that?
No, it's not exactly that one. It was this other one that's a free version, but
Oh,
sort
nice.
of, yeah. And use their API. It was literally like two API calls and then just a React front end, like with a input button, and then a square that was like, this is how many calories you ate. This is how many. This is your goal or whatever, you know. And yeah, that was it. Like I made this project and I was like, okay, cool. I can go up to them to the interview, be like, hey, I made this project with you even beforehand. So I know the technology is like to the T. Oh, I hosted it on Nginx and the AWS. So it was
Oh,
like
okay.
I
So
made
that's
like the perfect
everything.
package. Yeah.
Exactly tech stack. I mean that
Yeah,
that
the
shows
exact
them that you're willing to learn. You're able to
yeah.
learn,
Yeah.
not just saying you're willing to learn, actually taking action before getting into the interview, being like, I built this, this is your tech stack. I'm
Yeah.
serious. You could see clearly that I could code. This is my code quality. There's my other
Yeah.
websites with just plain vanilla JavaScript,
Yeah. Yeah. And
which is harder to kind of do.
yeah, and I just basically made a offer so good they couldn't resist.
Yeah.
So I got the interview and they were like, "Oh, this is awesome!" Like they were just like hooked onto me since the start. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is like amazing," and they asked me like very junior level questions because it was for a junior position. They asked me very junior level questions, and I feel like that's most how most entry level positions are for software. I don't know if that's the same experience with you, but it was very like, what's the difference between const, let, and var? What was another one? I don't remember, but
Yeah, I didn't really have too many specific engineering concepts like that where they like threw algorithms at me. Maybe like like a very basic FizzBuzz type of problem.
yeah.
The For me, what they were asking was like specific Android framework. Like describe the
Oh.
Android life cycle. What does onCreate do? What is a view model? Kind
Okay.
of like very specific. Did they ask you anything specific around the React framework? Like
Um,
what's use state? Anything like that?
no, they just asked me very JavaScript questions like var, let, const. What's the difference between a normal for loop and a for each? I think that was one of the questions. What's the difference between a filter? And then they also wanted me to know SQL. So I had a Postgres database. So they wanted me to know like what's the difference between like a an inner join and an outer join, a left join and a right join, like those SQL commands, you know. And that stuff was like I was like, okay, that's very simple question. So I did pretty good on those, and yeah, I ended up getting the job and been crushing it. So it's just like day in, day out. But yeah, that's been the last like year. I've been there since the last year. But yeah, it's been a crazy wild ride. I'm curious to hear how yours went. But that yeah.
Nice. So you're in Chicago right now. So you work with them in an office,
Mm-mm.
or you work
I'm not in
remote?
Chicago. I'm in I'm in like Texas, but like I have like Chicago time.
Ah, okay.
So
Oh,
yeah,
you're in Texas.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I work in office with them for 4 days out of the week, and then one day we have like a hybrid day where I work in remote. You know.
That's cool. Like it goes to show there's jobs where you don't need to know all these complex algorithms and all
Yeah,
these tech topics to like get an actual job and get your foot in the door, which is pretty good. I would like to. I remember in my interview, I actually built a project live when I was like talking to them. They had me build the equivalent of here's all this data, display it in a scrollable list, but like the
okay.
Android version. So I had to use, I used like all the native Android specific frameworks. Like in there, it's like a recycler view, view binding type of that stuff, which is like what Google recommends.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, I'll go back to the beginning.
Okay.
I kind of got my start into coding when I was really like young. When I was 12, I wrote my first Hello World program in Java, but I didn't really get too much farther than that. And the reason was because I had a Minecraft server, and Minecraft is written in Java. So to make
Yeah.
plugins for Minecraft, you got to learn Java. So that was my thinking. I was trying to learn Java for maybe like an hour a week from when I was like 12 to like 17 kind of thing. And then I started taking coding a lot more seriously. When I was senior year in high school, I'm like, okay, I really do not want to go to college. So I got to get something to work. So I would be coding I would just be coding startups basically.
Okay.
Little mini apps. Nothing really took off, but by the time that, 2020 came around, the current project that I was working on was this Ask Reddit bot. It would take Reddit content and it would emit them into a video. I'm not sure if you ever seen it, but it's like this TTS speech
Yeah.
type of content. And I was like really working on that, trying to get that to financially support me so I could do whatever I want. Because if I'm making my own money, like my parents, they can't really tell me what to do. That's kind
Yeah.
of how they always framed it from my point of view. And eventually, long story short, none of that stuff worked. And at that point, I just kind of neglected all my college classes because they were online, and I was just focusing on this kind of stuff. And when I was in school, it's every single thing just like you. The teacher would teach it, and I would just know it
Yeah.
already. I wouldn't have to like study. And then the tasks that they'd give programming wise, I'd be able to do them super quickly, and then I'd just basically help everybody in my class just do it because they'd always be like talking to me. He used me as examples for everything. Be like, okay, so that kind of gave me like a big ego of being like, okay, I'm a pretty good programmer.
Yeah.
I feel like I could get a job as a software engineer. So that kind of didn't last too long because kind of quickly after the Reddit thing I realized I don't know anything. There's like so much that I don't
Yeah.
know with coding and whatnot. So after that kind of didn't work, I realized, all right, college, I can't. I have about 6 months to get something together, and it seems like this Reddit bot's not going to work because YouTube just released a guideline that's preventing my types of videos from being monetized. And I just reached the monetization threshold, like 1,000 subs, and I got the views and whatnot. But that was
That's
like,
crazy.
man.
That's crazy.
So my backup plan was get a job as a software engineer, get a remote job as a software engineer.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know exactly how to do it, but from researching a lot, I even bought a course on getting a remote job, and from that I learned this very crucial piece of information, which was nobody hires a generalist anything. They hire a niche programmer, a niche developer. So, in your case, you're not a web developer, you're a React developer.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like there's a difference. I wasn't like, so I knew I couldn't just be a software engineer, even though I have all these random projects and whatnot. I need to be more niche and specialized.
yeah.
And after exploring all of the options for the one I could learn the fastest, and what I think is the fastest one to learn, and for people who just want a job as a software engineer, was Android development. Now, all of the resources are on Google. They were on, it's the same with iOS stuff too. Like the native platforms have all the documentation that you need and lessons to become an industry level developer. It just takes a lot of time to go through it. You got to study it. Then I bought Udemy courses to go build side by side. But my technique basically, I built a bunch of apps side by side using the best practices that were passed down from Google, the latest and greatest. And then from that knowledge, I was able to build my own personal apps. So I built around 5 apps and uploaded them to Google Play. I shared all the code on GitHub. And then when I was applying to jobs, I applied to maybe like 1,000 jobs, remote jobs. Like I did so much application work where I was able to kind of figure out how to communicate with them and give my resume in a way that makes it more likely for them to give me a call. And then when I actually got on calls, I got better and better at making it to the next step. And then I kept getting better at making it to the next step. And then eventually I got an offer for a job, which is
6 months.
about where I am. Yeah, it took about 6 months to master Android development. To get good enough to get a job
Yeah,
in it.
like an
I,
entry
I,
level position.
it was like the title I got was graduate software engineer.
Oh,
But
okay.
I remember like something that my employer told me was if he didn't look at my code, he wouldn't have hired me because I was like obsessed with good code architecture and making sure everything's the latest and greatest on like Android. So that helped. And like day one, I just I was on the job. I completed a task that they thought would take a week, and basically just kept going like 100 miles per hour at there, just basically doing a good job clearing the backlog. So they knew I was serious. I just did that, and then I got promoted in like the first 6 months because they realized that I'm not a graduate engineer, I'm a software engineer. But I had no internships, nothing. It's just straight industry level. Mainly because I built apps from front to back and pushed them to the Google Play Store, which is harder to do. It's kind of like it's not harder to do than web, but just less people do it on the self-taught route from what I see. Most people are web devs that are
Yeah.
self-taught,
I think it's because
which still
of
works.
the amount of resources, because it is the web. There is like
Yeah.
so much more resources for web dev, you
Yeah,
know?
but for me, I was trying to learn web dev at first. I learned it now and I understand it, but when I was first trying to learn it, I was so confused. I was overwhelmed. There was so much information. I didn't know what to do.
That's
So
true.
you're right. There's a lot of information, but for me it was overwhelming. What wasn't as overwhelming was Android, and because it's like a closed ecosystem with less libraries. It's that Google says here's the best practices. You do this, so you don't need to guess as much as you may need to guess for web. But like what I kind of come to realize is like once I learned Android, I got really good at it. When I finally was like, okay, I'm gonna go to web, the same type of architecture design and coding patterns still apply to web that I'm like carrying over from Android. Like mastering one platform has a very strong skill transfer into mastering another one.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, how did you learn architecture through self-taught? Like,
Yeah. So uh the courses talk about it, and
Mhm.
Google on Udacity even has courses talking about it. It's just if you go through the resources, it's both on Android and iOS. They have like they mention stuff about MVVM architecture, and then from that I just Googled on YouTube. I just searched on YouTube building an app with MVVM architecture, and I did
Mhm.
that just so many times with so many apps where I was able to grasp it. And like the first major technological challenge I had for my job was converting their app to MVVM architecture because there was no architecture whatsoever. They saw me using view models, which is what Google recommends, and we weren't like the Android app wasn't using view models before I kind of stepped in there and started taking that. But there's a lot like I think there's just like the resources there are better because I mean Google and Apple are multi like trillion-dollar companies who benefit when people learn the framework of Android and iOS, whereas with web development, the frameworks like React, Svelte, Angular, the people who created that language, they don't have as much to gain when more people would learn it. Would like
Yeah.
I think they still have a lot to gain because maybe they could people contribute to the source code, a bigger pool of people to hire in that particular framework. But there's
Yeah,
like a
that's
greater
super
financial incentive for Google and Apple, which is why I think they invest a lot of money into making their documentation like pristine
yeah.
and very thorough for the people who actually go through it and try to understand everything in it.
Yeah, it's super interesting because like I never even got into architecture until I was at my job and I was like, "Oh, this is what good code looks like."
Oh,
Cuz
really?
I was yeah, like it was never really a thought. I was like, "I'm just going to build this as fast as I can." And it just my code was usually just like mushy together, like it was mushed push to GitHub or like to wherever I was hosting AWS and just like run with it. I didn't like really get into architecture until I got the job and I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy."
Was there anything else that you can think of in the lines of architecture that you didn't realize was a thing until you got a job? Because there was a few things for me. Like I didn't know
Mm.
what debug mode was until I got a job.
Yeah, me neither. I was like, "Well, I don't even know how to use this." Yeah, debug. Um, I would say more on the DevOps side. Like, I understood that you can publish code, and like I understood how to make like a something in production, but I didn't understand like there you can like package it like a Docker. You can package it in different ways. That was probably the biggest thing. And
Oh,
then
deployments.
yeah,
Like
deployments. Yeah,
deployments.
yeah.
Yeah, that's messy. I still haven't figured out Docker. Instead, I got frustrated and used Netlify for my sites.
Yeah, exactly. Or Vercel. Have you heard of Vercel?
For Cell, yeah, yeah.
Vercel's really easy. Like if I were to use I mean if I'm actually going into production, I'm gonna use Nginx, but yeah, Vercel is like website in 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, of course. It is so great because it's Vercel's free, like Netlify,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
as a self-taught dev, you could use Vercel to just host a bunch of your projects
yeah,
in resume or like resume site. You don't even need to buy a domain, right? It's like you could
yeah,
do whatever domain.vercel.com, so it's free and you
yeah.
could get that out there, which is pretty cool.
Have you ever done Apple development? Like was that ever a thought like maybe I should do become a mobile developer and like let's do both? I know.
Yeah. So how mobile app development works on the native level is you need to write code that specifically runs on the Android operating system and specifically write code that runs on the iOS operating system. And in order to run code on the iOS operating system, you actually need a Mac. And at that point, I didn't have a
Oh,
Mac, and so I decided to just go with Android. And even like prior to that, for I had a like I had this class in high school where it was mobile app development. My teacher had no idea what he was doing. I was teaching him things, but how it was working is like he was the calculus teacher. So my thought like what I think happened was the school board was like, "Huh, we want to introduce coding to this school. Let's give it to the calculus teacher to teach the curriculum." We use something called MIT App Inventor. And like this was around when I was 17 when I was like taking things seriously, so like senior year. And
yeah.
what happened was for the final project, we were tasked to write an app. And I was like, yo, mister, this MIT App Inventor sucks. Can I just code this in Java instead? And he was like, you know how to do that? I'm like, probably. Can I do it? Like, sure, go ahead. So I ended up building a app which actually used the Java, what's that called? Java FX. It used
Yeah,
this like
yeah.
extension of Java FX and something and it like and this thing called libgdx. It was not a native mobile app, Android mobile app at all, but it would only run on the Android operating system because it was built on top of, it was built Java. So Android runs in the JVM, which is like
Mhm.
Java. So it was all written in Java. So things that are written in Java for app wise, um, okay, I'm not gonna go into edge cases, but they can, for the most part, they can only run on Android devices. So I ended up building this like simple little game where you like slide up and down, and it was Kim Jong Un shooting bananas at politicians like Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump,
Okay.
and Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump would shoot rockets at Kim Jong Un. Bernie
That's crazy.
Sanders would shoot rainbows, and Hillary Clinton would shoot her emails at Kim Jong Un.
That's
And then
crazy.
Kim Jong Un would be shooting like bananas. It was like a crappy little pixelated game, but like you could clearly see that was happening. And
Mm.
when that was technically the first app I uploaded to the Play Store, but Google deleted it because it was too offensive.
Yeah, I'm surprised your school let you build that. That's crazy.
Oh, I did some I pushed the edge in high school on what I could get
Mm.
away with,
Okay.
but I like to say I was the best worst student. And that's what
Mm.
I always was. Like I got good grades, I did all my work done, but like I would just take things to the limits.
Mhm.
Like on PowerPoints, I'd put dank memes in there. Like the
Oh yeah,
dankest
you're
that
one of
could
those kids.
possibly
Okay.
be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was,
Okay.
but
Okay, that's cool. And then does that kind of lead you up to where you are now?
yeah, that kind of experience helped build that. Like that kind of help. I think that experience of just building one native Android development, like one Android app, made me be like, oh, I built an Android app before,
Mm.
so I could easily get a job as an Android developer. And then I'm like, whole like there's just so much stuff that I didn't know. I just knew basically how to code in Java, kinda, and then when I started doing Android, I'm like, all right, there's broadcast receivers, view models, the view model, like the life cycle of Android apps, which it's just there's just like a decent amount to learn, just native, like just specific to the framework. And what my thinking is, like, people who go to college, they don't get that expertise in Android unless they get a job in Android development, and when they first start that job, they're gonna need to be taught a lot. So just as self-taught developers, being able to, like, even like, I think just mastering a niche, like, do college grads know how to do React?
I really doubt it. I like really, really doubt it. They might know JavaScript, but they
They
won't
might
know
know
React.
JavaScript. Yeah. And the framework itself is, I mean, it's easier to learn once you learn JavaScript, but it still takes a decent amount to learn.
Yeah, the
I'm guessing
framework
it
itself is
was,
like learning a whole different new language. Like
yeah,
there's,
that's how you felt like.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's
kind of like.
similar.
Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, you had to learn declarative programming for that because React does that. And I mean I remember before, yeah, Android, I tried looking at React and I was just so confused. But Android, there's something similar, and same with iOS. On Android there is Compose, Jetpack Compose, and iOS is Swift UI, which is a declarative framework, and the pattern's very similar to React. So I was able to like code something in React from basically just leveraging the knowledge from Jetpack Compose and doing that stuff. And
Damn, see, that's crazy. So you're pretty young too, right? Because like I
yeah,
like
man. How old are you? I'm
I'm
23.
20. I'm 20.
All right,
How old are you?
23. I just turned like 23 2 months ago.
23. I'm about
Yeah.
to turn 21, if that makes you feel better. So,
No, no. I mean, I know I still feel I'm young, but I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to feel older. I'm like,
mm,
life's going by. I spent the last few years just coding remotely, and then
grinding.
recently I went on some, like, I work remote, so I actually just started taking advantage of that recently, and spent some time surfing in Peru with some people, other people who
Cool. That's
work
really
remote.
cool.
Went to Medellin, Colombia for a bit,
Cool.
and went to Mexico. But yeah, I'm kind of starting that chapter in my life, trying to travel a bit more and actually take advantage of
That's
working
really
remotely
cool.
instead
How long
of
have you been
doing it
employed? Like, or like
like
had the title or developer or like Android
uh
mobile developer?
3 years.
Dang,
About three
okay.
years, man. It went kind of fast, like
That's
a little
crazy.
bit, but Yeah.
Okay, and that's really interesting. Okay. And like, what would you say your best advice is? I guess for the youth, the people who are watching, what would you say?
People who, well, if you want, like, if you want to self-taught, if you want to get a software engineering job, you can do it. It's just you got to learn a lot. You got to take a lot of courses. There's a lot of information actually all over the place where it's kind of, I think it's easy to get overwhelmed and unsure of what you should be doing because there's just so much you should be doing. So first of all, decide what you want. Do you want, like, if you like decide that you want a job as a software engineer, and then from there decide, what do you want to work remotely or do you want to work in an office? Because I think, like, decide for that, and then thirdly decide what you need to learn to get that. Decide the niche. If it's like in an office, look around what's around you. See, like kind of what you did, right? Like you
Yeah,
found the company that did that. You built the project for it, which is, I think, anybody who's trying to apply to a job and you're self-taught, you don't have a degree, don't have certifications, you got to make sure you've built a project with their tech stack, because then that shows that you can join the team and hit the ground running and just not have a high learning curve when you're actually in there, so you could provide value ideally day one, the
yeah,
second you join the team. And
yeah.
I kind of, I don't really like internships that much. I'd kind of just say you could just go for it. Just get a job as a software engineer. You can make your own internship, which a lot of people overlook. And I mean, you figured this out, but we can make our own experience as developers. You don't have to have a company to hire you. You can hire yourself.
Facts. That's facts. Yeah, like I completely agree. I think the biggest thing is just like actually you just code. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
matter what you're building, just code. And
code,
yeah,
code,
just code.
and I think push yourself a little bit further every single project. Try to add one new thing in every project.
And then before this, did you have another job or like how was your financial situation? Because for me, it was like I needed this job or like I was good like gonna go
Oh,
broke. Like I was so like
yeah. I wouldn't say I would have gone broke, because when I was 14, I started a job as a busser and then got promoted to a waiter at like 16, and then worked as a waiter from like 16 to like 18, which I'm actually very grateful for, because I feel like if I didn't do that, my communication skills would be trash. And I met a lot of software engineers whose communication skills aren't the best. It's just kind of a thing in our industry. And
yeah.
developing communication skills was big. I feel like I wouldn't have been able to get a job as a self-taught developer if I didn't have somewhat a decent ability to articulate thoughts and communicate in a clear way. Um, but yeah, I was just a waiter. But like what really kind of motivated me was, like, while I was trying to get a job, I did not have the best relationship with my parents, because eventually they found out I ignored college and they were not happy at all. So I felt like if I didn't get a job, they would have could have like disowned me, kinda.
Yeah.
And that was a big motivating factor for me,
Yeah, that
to
fear.
prove them wrong and to prove a lot of people wrong. Did you have any experience of people telling you you don't have a degree? You can't get a
Yeah.
job? Do you
Yeah.
have that?
Yeah,
That was
mine.
so painful for me.
Yeah. What was your experience? Like, was that your parents, would you say? That they were like, or who do you think?
I'd say everybody except a few people. My brother one of my brother I have two brothers. One of them was like, "Yeah, you could do it. I've seen the things you've coded. You could do it." And then I guess I had one of my friends who'd be like, "Sure, okay, whatever." And then like a few other friends who were just kind of indifferent. They wouldn't really like they wouldn't. No one would really motivate me, which was kind of tough. Like I had to motivate myself.
Yeah. I had kind of the same experience. Although I did have one person tell me that like you weren't gonna make it, and that was my comp sci professor. So
He
like,
said you weren't gonna make it.
yeah, well, he
Why
didn't.
would why would a teacher say that? That's so messed up. Your
So
teacher's supposed to motivate you.
so like how it happened was it was the first week of like college and I go up to him. It's like a Friday, the last like day of the week, it's first last day of the week. And I go up to his office and I'm like, "Hey, professor." I'm not gonna say his name because like, I don't know. "Hey,
Yeah, yeah.
professor. I wanted to ask you a question. I was wondering like if you have any like intern opportunities or like job opportunities for developers, like I would love a chance. Like just like let me know. And he was like, no, like do you have no like no like you don't know anything like at all. And like he didn't even let me speak. He was like, no, like leave, like no.
Is
And I was
this
like, well,
after you dropped out or while
yeah,
you were still in
no, this
school?
was like before, right? But like it was before.
Okay.
And so this it was like first week of school. So like it made me hate the class, but yeah, he was like,
Blame
no,
you.
you don't know anything. That's only goes to like juniors or seniors. Like you don't know anything. Like no.
How can you know what you know?
And I was like, he didn't even let me speak. And I was like,
Yeah,
all right.
the thing about school that really frustrates me is that student teacher dynamic in some cases. Like some
Mhm.
teachers just I don't know, like kind of take it too far a little bit. I
Yeah,
don't know.
and I mean, I guess
And it's slow. It's slow. Like how do they know you didn't know it? You could have self-taught yourself everything, at which you pretty much did.
yeah, and after that point, like I like it lit a fire in me, and I was like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. Like
Yes.
I'm going to get this,
I
and
think
I'm
we
like,
both have that thing of that drive of just proving people wrong because we know like we both had that deep conviction that it's
yeah,
possible. We knew we could do it. What
ex-
made you think that it was possible to do?
it was just like I want to say like I don't know. I just kind of figured that if I can make like a website, if I can
Yeah.
just make it like a one up version of that, and I just keep like iterating on it, like I can make a better project, a better project. Like eventually, like I'm gonna be able to do this on my own. It's just a matter of time. And it's like how much of that time can I just shrink down to like the next 3 months or like the next like couple of like months? Like just how much of that can I shrink down to get there right now? And I was
You
like,
didn't you didn't like find people on YouTube who were like talking about becoming a self-taught engineer. Did you even know what the term self-taught was before you decided to get an engineering job without a degree and dropping out?
yeah, I would see it on YouTube.
Yeah.
There was this one guy, I don't know his name, but
Yeah, I don't
he
know
was a
either any
self-taught
of the
dev.
names, but I saw people on YouTube like talking about it. I'm like,
Yeah,
makes sense.
I knew it
Because
was
like at the
possible.
end of the day, companies just want you to be able to do the job that they want done, and they want you to be a cool person to work with.
Exactly.
So if you could tick those boxes and demonstrate that, then it'd be pretty good.
I make them an offer so good they can't say no.
Yeah, I like yours. Like nowadays in today's job market, I would like you gotta be messaging people
Yeah.
more and following up because there's just so much noise on the through the front door of LinkedIn. So sometimes you got to go through the back door, through the
Yeah,
emails, you know.
exactly. What would you say like if you were gonna go back in time, like what steps would you give yourself? I guess I think that would be more actionable for like anybody who's listening and like in
Yeah,
your previous steps, like what actions would you take? I can go
I
first
would.
if you ready or if not.
Yeah, I would have. I definitely like the path that I took to become, to get a job as a software engineer was pretty good. It's just I just was missing so much information
Mm,
before I actually did it. I had to waste a lot of time trying to like figure out what it is I'm supposed to do. And also a big thing is okay, like once you build projects, once you push them to GitHub, the hardest like the hurdle that a lot of people would give up on is just the interviews because you could like you have the skills. I think a lot of people who would get to the point that I would get to and not have gotten a job is they would have had the skills, but they wouldn't have fully had the belief in themselves that they're capable of doing the work. And with that, it would show lack of confidence when you're talking to people in interviews. So a lot of the things I kind of say is just kind of like, yeah, do the build apps, build 10 apps, like then build your own apps, upload them to Google Play, share the code on GitHub, make the code uh higher quality, make sure it's high quality, and then in the resume, make sure that you make a call to action for the recruiter to tell the engineers on the team to check out your GitHub repository and see your code quality if you're
that's
very confident
good.
in your code quality. Because yeah, like the company that hired me, they said they only hired me because they looked at my code. everything else about my resume was like kind of like this like weird, but they looked at my code and they're like they were impressed by it enough to
That's
like
really
move me
interesting. That's a
forward.
really good one. That's a really, really good one. Look at my GitHub. Wow, that's good.
Look at my source code. Yeah, look at it.
That's
How
really
about you? Do you think is there anything you'd be able to tell your younger self that would have made it be so you got where you are today faster?
um I just like I don't know, take more action is what I would say. Like a lot of the time is like spent overthinking like can I actually do this? Because you do have this self-belief, but there's also those moments where it's like you're coding and you're seeing no progress and I'm like, dude, should I just like go get another job? Like should I just like cuz this is like wasted time, right? Or like time you're spending outside of work, outside of your other stuff. So it's like, man, like I don't know if I'm wasting my time and like I always had that fear. It was like
Yeah,
if like this is just a waste of time, like, dude, like I could have been doing something else. Like I hate that idea of wasting my time. So I guess just something I would tell myself is like just don't overthink it. It's like you're on the right track. Just keep coding and outreach. Like for me was the biggest thing is like you got to understand how to make yourself valuable, how to make a good offer like to companies, and like my way of doing that that I would give my younger self is just like look at job applications near you, look at the team, look at the technologies they use, look at like the job market near you, and then pick like if it's mobile devs that are the most popular near you, or the reason I say local is because you can like actually go and talk to them in a way. You can go talk
yeah.
to them, or since they're more local, you're like, oh, I live here too. Like, hey, I'm like down the, or like I live in the area. So that's why I think local could give you that edge versus remote. I think, but that's just been from my experience. What I would tell myself is just like, yeah, like look at local jobs, see what's most popular. Is it web dev? Is it mobile dev? It could be machine learning. Like see what's most popular, pick like that area since you have the highest chance, and just like run with it. Like go in that niche, understand the code, make some projects, and just keep taking action and outreach, like action with outreach and code. And I just like,
Being able to show up at their doorstep is a huge advantage if you
yeah,
if you could do that.
yeah.
They can't ignore you.
Like they
you
literally
know?
can't. Like here's my resume. Like you can't just say no. Like
I'll tell you, like, I mean, there was a story of Steve Jobs where he was trying to get hired at like at a computer manufacturing company. So he walked in there and he said, "I'm not leaving here until I get a job and speak to your manager."
wow, that's crazy. What?
They just do things like that. You hop in there, make it impossible for them to deny you, and yeah, make it hard. Make them call the cops if they want you to leave.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh my gosh. That could work,
Yeah.
honestly. Like,
Yeah, if you go up there every like imagine if every once a week you're like, "Hey, I really want to work for you. What do I need to do in order to do that? What's your tech stack?" They show you your tech stack. The next week you come up there, "Hey, I built this project. Look at this project. Is this good enough to possibly explore employment possibilities, opportunities at all?" They say no, but then they're like, "Okay, what else do you need to do?" And they say nothing, you don't listen. You go back, you code more projects, you make something more complex, you come back the next week and say, "Hey, look, I added this to my resume. I'm building this. Is there any possible way we can explore employment opportunities?"
you just like don't
There's
give up.
no how can you fail if you do that?
Yeah.
I think just making it impossible for yourself to fail.
Yeah.
And there's so much you could do. Like I mean, like ask yourself, if you ask yourself, what am I doing that could increase my chances of success that I'm not doing? There's answers, right?
Or you could do the inverse, which is Alex Ramosey's way.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah, how can I make myself fail? Like, how can I guarantee myself failure?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. How can I guarantee myself to fail? Then do the exact opposite of that.
Exactly.
And then yeah, it's going to be very difficult to fail.
That's really good. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So, what's kind of your next step? You're thinking just like traveling the world, doing cool shit?
Yeah, the next step for me is I'm building like a course telling what I've learned just
Okay.
to learn the marketing skills because I'm building all these projects for like software. You can go to phantasma.dev, you can kind of get a glimpse of some of the side projects I built and try to market, but I didn't really know what I'm doing on the marketing side. So my next step for me is just getting good at marketing so I can build products and then there's a few apps that like, I want to build. I want to build apps that benefit people's lives, like
Mm.
TikTok and a lot of social media stuff. Like, I want to make content and build apps that have a positive impact on people's life. Things like encouraging proper eating. Like the problem I'm solving now is getting bigger and bulking up. So when I solve that problem, I have a pretty good idea for an app that could help a lot of people do that, and then hopefully like gain the marketing abilities to be able to do that. And then some I could there's just I have ideas for so many apps that I know could work, that could have a product market fit. It's just the marketing strategy for that. So that's really my focus is meaning getting better at marketing projects, and talking to more people, being more social, traveling more, because when you travel, your mind gets opened up to different ways of life, different paradigms of thinking.
That's
And also life kind of slows down. Like this year felt like the longest year. The first 2 years when I was working remote, I just kind of kept my head down and worked. But being out and about, it really just has a higher quality of life when you're going out and doing things that you're excited to do.
I think like when you're grinding, like the days melt together, and you're like, wow, I just spent the last like 2 months, like they're gone. I don't even remember them.
Yeah, exactly. There's a fine there's a time and a place for it.
Yeah, yeah, that one for sure, for sure.
How about you? What are your next steps? So you've been working for a job for a year now. Are you planning to stay with them? Are you planning to build a startup? Are you planning to find another job? What are you thinking now?
So, well, I really want to get a new, I want to get one more new job before I start my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I kind of made this community, because first of all, I just want to like help other people make it too. And I know like that's my whole like offer is like you get software engineer, self-taught software engineer in 6 months or your money back. I don't know if I will actually charge for it, but that's kind of like what I've been building on the side. But my main thing is like I want to get one more job before I start building on my like own thing, and I kind of want to get a job with school, like the actual school platform, school.com, like as a developer. And
That'd be a great developer role.
yeah, and it'd be really cool just because I think uh, if I just like get that job, I could fully understand like the whole like because I think their trajectory is gonna go crazy. Like I think they have really
Yeah,
big potential in the next like 10 years to be something huge. So if it is something huge, I want to be like at least one of the people, like one MVP there, and possibly get some credit. If not, it's fine. Like it's still gonna be a huge learning experience that I can use like in
for
another
sure. Yeah.
startup when I make it, or like in another team that I join. Like it's gonna be this huge thing. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm just trying to. I'm making this project using their tech stack, like the exact same strategies I used to get a job, like the first time.
Yes.
I'm doing it again. So I'm making a project with their
Just
tech stack,
keep
obviously
knocking
with
on their
everything.
door.
Yeah. And this time I'm making like a 2.0 version of it. So I'm making like documentation for it. Like I kind of want to
Oh
make
yeah,
this like mini
you're
QA
going
cycle
on.
for it. Like I want the architecture to be like perfect, like the basically the next level of it, you know?
Yeah, if you just keep putting your effort into that and keep iterating, keep making projects, and just figuring out different ways of communicating the fact that you have the tech stack down, maybe
Yeah,
make videos or something, like hey, with your resume. I feel like actually not a lot of people make videos talking about
that's
the things
true.
that they built to send to companies.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna write that down.
Things to like set yourself aside apart from the other people who are trying to get in there,
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
going through the back door, not the front. Figuring out ways. There's always a way into the nightclub. If it's not through the front, it's through the back. I don't know where I read that from, but that quote applies to so many things.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you also watch a lot of Alex Hermosi, right? So that's what you said.
I do. I like his content. I watch his read his books, watch his videos. His his videos are just like they're good for anyone, really, even if you're
Hmm.
not getting into business. Just as an employee, if you understand the concepts that a business owner is thinking of, you'd be able to make them more money. And
Hmm.
when you make them someone more money, you make more money.
Exactly.
Law of
Ex-
reciprocity.
Yeah.
How about you watch a lot of him too? You read his
Yeah, bro.
books and
Like I've
whatnot?
watched literally everything for like the past like year, 2 years. Ever
Yeah,
since
he's
I
pretty
found out
good.
about him, I've watched like every single one of his episodes. And I don't even do sales, you know? So like I'm not even like in sales. That was most of his beginning content was a lot of sales. And
But
like
you do sales. We all do sales because we got to sell ourselves to companies,
true. That's true.
and you got to sell yourself to your like to everybody. Like a lot of things you can learn, you can benefit from learning how to sell. I don't really like salespeople per se because I don't like being sold stuff. But
Yeah.
the ability of sales is valuable. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. Being good at sales kind of like drifts over, but I don't even do so. Like I've never sold anybody on the phone. Like so none of that,
Yeah.
but it was cool. I love his content. Like absolutely love his content. Is there any
As
developers you watch? Sorry. Go ahead.
as far as that, let's see. Not really right now. Do you watch any?
No, only like the big guys. So like Fireship, IO,
Oh, I do watch that. I watch that channel.
and then
It's like tech
Primogen
updates.
is going up.
Prime Engine. Yeah, I saw some of his stuff. I feel like the majority. I watched a lot of YouTubers when I was first learning how to code. Like notably, I guess like coding with Mitch. This guy named Philip. There's like some niche Android developer channels that were
Mm,
helpful to watch. But like since then, I just kind of learned everything that I needed to. And then nowadays, if I'm trying to learn a framework, I'll use ChatGPT as like a coach and have it explain stuff for me. And then
yeah.
if I don't understand something, I'll go to YouTube and watch a tutorial on a particular topic to understand it further. And then yeah, I did buy actually I bought one of Fireship's courses recently. I bought his fuck it stack to learn Svelte
Really?
and Firebase a little bit better.
Yeah.
I like Svelte. It's a fun framework
Spelt is pretty
to
cool.
work
I
on.
haven't done anything with it, but Spelt was pretty cool. Plus, have you heard of XML? Is that the one? X something? It's like a new framework that came out, but yeah,
XML.
no, I think that's a different thing. But
Yeah,
so
XML is like HTML,
yeah, I think
and
that's
and
X.
Android has XML files. XML is just like that. It's like the structure of carrots and text. Basically, it's you can make
Yeah.
anyways.
So
You Google
how come
that.
you're doing like podcasts? Like, is that part of your next step?
Yeah, I'm
Like,
like I said, I'm trying like to get better at content creation and marketing and whatnot. So and building like a personal brand because
okay,
personal brands are kind of very valuable. And I do want to get into business, and having a personal brand makes that a lot easier and more accessible to like to talk to other people, networking, like helping more people with building things, and it's just kind of fun. Like I get to talk to people and make it productive.
I think that's super cool. That's a really good idea that you're on. I think it could be something even big too, because I don't think there's many people in the developer space doing it. Do you plan on just sticking with this space, or do you plan on like moving out?
At the core, I am a developer, so there'll always be some programming like stuff in everything I like in some connection to things I do. They'll be
Yeah.
connected to programming because I do genuinely enjoy it,
Mhm.
and talking to people who are good at it. It's just I guess you develop a passion when you get good at something. But
Exactly.
I kind of always knew since a young age that I was gonna become a software engineer just because I wanted the ability to travel and like location freedom and work remote, and coding is a very valuable skill to be able to build stuff. Are you familiar with Naval Ravikant? He
No.
says like he has a good point with like code and media are like the two types of permissionless leverage. I learned this after like I started
Mm.
coding, but this basically I think Alex Hermosi even says this before, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, code and media are both permissionless, meaning you don't need to ask anyone's permission. It's free to run, free to do. and it's very high leverage,
Leverage.
you know,
Yep.
like right now this podcast, this video is just it's just like a mini worker for us, just constantly being displayed to other people. And the code that we worked, they're like it's
Same thing.
slaves, you know, like it's a little slave.
Slave is actually crazy.
But it doesn't, it runs on ones and zeros, and there's no moral wrongdoing by
Yeah.
forcing a program to run
Until it turns alive.
24/7 up until it becomes sentient.
then then it's good. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's really
So
cool.
have you ever, like, when you were learning, I feel like it's hard for a lot of people to actually stay disciplined
Mm.
and commit to learning stuff. Did you ever think about your ways, like, how can you do more with less time, and how can you actually get things done and not get distracted? Did you like cut out social media, do anything to like manage that, or you were just kind of able to do it?
No, I think it's definitely there's times where it's like, man, I really don't want to do this. I really just would rather not. But I think it's just like keeping that frame. It's like this is something you need to do. This is something that like you have to do. Like it's not something that you like it's not something that you can put off. Like this is either going to take a year or 2 years or 3 years, like however long it's going to take you, or it can take you like this 6 months or like this like sort of amount of time. Like you can crunch it down so fast. You can make your success like well not guaranteed because everything's not not guaranteed, but you can crush the numbers real down. So that was kind of my mindset is like if I just keep grinding, like eventually it'll pay off. Like if I'm doing my best, there's no way where I don't like lose type of thing.
Think there's any way it can be guaranteed though, or it's just, I think it gets to a point where it becomes unreasonable for you not to succeed.
Unreasonable, yeah. I would say unreasonable.
Because you know, like I have friends and people who, like, you know, they see what I've done. They, like, I try to tell them and teach it, but it's hard for them to focus. So I'm trying
Mm.
to figure out anything that would be helpful for the types of people who like want to do it, but they just can't seem to
Mm.
focus and get to work. And part of it, I think, is just maybe they don't want it enough. So having a strong desire for a change is might be the, like, necessary in order to kind of go the self taught route. Because I guess when you're in school, you're kind of you're forced into it, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like against your will a little bit more. Like there's more resistance to not going to a class, you know, and not participating in college than there is to coding, following some random coding tutorial from some guy from India who talks like
Yeah.
this and trying to tell you about the
Yeah.
Java static public static void main function.
Public static void, public static void, yeah. Public static main void args. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you know, yeah, you know Java. Java FX.
Java FX. Public static
Yes.
void. Yeah. No, I think for those who are really struggling with motivation, just like I guess I would say just cut out or try to like cut out maybe set time blocks. Maybe that would help. Like I'm gonna give this a lot of time. I'm not gonna do anything else. I just gonna stare at the screen. If I can't get anything like done code
Actually
wise, I'm
do it.
just gonna stare at the screen. But like I'm going to be here. I'm gonna set this time. And like if I don't do code, if I just stare at the screen for an hour, like I'm not doing anything else but
Yeah.
this.
Curious. Have you ever watched short form videos or like a highly dopamine piece of content and then tried to code afterwards?
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Yeah.
It's pretty difficult to do
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are overstimulated too, and
I agree.
managing strategies to not go on social media and not get distracted by it, especially right before you're about to do work. So you never struggle with like social media, like addiction or any of that. You kind of have that under management for the most
Well,
part.
I I have like I feel like I have struggled with that before, but I think it's like I don't know, but maybe it's just like my mindset, my like the time for like I'm not sure that I guess how I frame it is like you can have like the good, but like you have to dedicate like some time like to just work because I think I don't know. I don't know. I didn't have to implement anything for me, for like that to work for me. So it's kind of hard. Like, what about you? Did you implement anything?
I think so. There's some things. part of it, I really wanted it. I think earlier when I should have been learning to code, I would get distracted with video games, from
Mm.
like when I was like 12, like to 17 type things, like where I could have realistically been working on my craft much sooner in the time that
Yeah.
I have it. But I would
When
say
you're
like if you're young,
coding,
still go.
5 years
I
old.
still like hung out with friends and went out and all that. But of course, there's always that time where you're just wasting time watching something or like playing video games. And I feel like doing something instead of that would be better. Maybe like the people who I guess I was just kind of like the social circle I was in was kind of like telling me to like was playing video games, so that kind of had something to do with
Yeah,
it.
your environment.
Environment is big, yeah. Um, but I guess I just started taking it way like super seriously and had the strong desire, which kind of kicked that out. There's some stuff like I never really. I'm so grateful that I wasn't raised when short form, like both of us, we weren't really young when the short form first started to come up because I just see that distracting people a lot, and I don't really condone watching short form at all because I feel like it's just very bad for your brain and makes you makes it hard to focus for the most part. But
Yeah,
that and
there's
then what really helped me is just eating very clean. I
really
noticed that helped a lot with the
okay.
clarity. I noticed if you ever do this next time you eat bread, there's for some people, for me, right when I eat bread, I get a little like brain fog. Same
Really.
with high sugar foods. After you eat that, you get you get like a high and then you get a crash.
Mm.
So I kind of figured out a diet that works for me, so I don't have any crashes. I basically just eat like meat, vegetables, and like I like today I had a smoothie, an egg thing, and then I had a big ass burrito. I'm gonna have another big burrito after this.
Cool. Okay. That's cool.
Then exercise. You said you're big on exercise.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that helps with mental clarity as well.
Mm.
Getting the mind in the right state to be able to code is important. Like getting the vessel ready because if you're like I think if you're eating like McDonald's, Taco Bell every single day, you're not exercising, you're not going to be able to have the brain as much as a brain power as someone who isn't doing those things is going to have when they're trying to focus and code. And that's some of your competition that you're competing against to get to get a job. So
Yeah, or like, man, I don't know, like, or try to find people that you want to prove wrong, maybe. I don't know,
that's good.
because
Walk into college, a CS class, and say, "I'm gonna get a job without a software engineering degree."
yeah, exactly. And then everybody will tell you no.
They'll tell
Yeah,
you, "No, you can't do that."
yeah, yeah. Uh,
Uh
I think I also heard this quote from Chris William on YouTube. He's like a podcast guy.
huh.
I think it's like you need to have a desire, but then you also need to have something that you're running away from. Like in my situation, like I hated the job that I was in. I also hated like the school. Like there's like these two pushing factors, and there's also a pulling factor. Is like this software engineering job is like not everything I need, but in the moment, it's like this is it. Like
Yeah.
I just get this one thing, I can like leave all this behind. So it's like this pull and push factor towards your goals. So like maybe finding that for your case could help.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think are there any other notes you have? Do you think that could help people? Because we're both self-taught engineers. A lot of people do want to be in our position.
Mm.
Um, so I
Um,
don't know. I
it's kind of
just
crazy. I want to note that like one thing like when you do get here in the position, it, you there's times where it's like you feel the same. Like you don't feel like a whole different new person. It's just like you're at a different level. Like you're still the same person. You don't
yeah,
feel any different. You're not like eternally happy or anything. You're still just like a human. You're not anything else. Like you're still just a human, and you still have good days, bad days, and like you just have a new job now, or you just have a new like more
new
income.
job. Do you feel like you reached the next level?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like a level up. You get a little level up in life.
It's like a video game.
The next level, of course. So getting on to the next level,
What about you? You have notes?
and I feel like I said everything that would be super helpful. I guess if people people want to contact me, they can go to Instagram, phantasma.dev, or my website, phantasma.dev. I'm happy to help. I'm helping people become self-taught engineers similar to him. I would go to him for web development. If you want native, I can help you with that. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah,
School.com
you could plug your
slash
thing.
pick a
He
sand.
has a good school. He's been consistent for like how many days now? You've been doing it. He's not going anywhere. I can tell you're not going anywhere.
No,
You've
so
been doing this
like
for
67 days. Like it's
like
really
60,
new.
70
It's
days.
really new, but 67, 68, something like that.
Yeah.
But not
And it's like
stopping.
it's so cool because both of us are so early on where we can just help people one on one, like so
Yeah,
cool, like so effectively,
yeah, exactly.
which is great.
It's super cool. But yeah, it was really nice talking to you, man. I feel like you're really interesting. Do you have a LinkedIn? Maybe we can connect.
Yeah, bro. Justin Geist. You can find it. It was nice talking to you. Too. Do you have a LinkedIn? Should I
Yeah.
don't even know. Should I put this on? You want to put it? Plug your LinkedIn?
Oh, well, mine is just Daniel Guillen. So like, it's just my name.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. I'm gonna stop recording. People
Okay.
who are watching this, get to work. Don't go scroll TikTok or some random cat video with Nicki Minaj shaking that ass. Go find some coding content or something
Just
productive
code,
that
and move
will
on.
enrich your mind. All right, enrich your soul.
Join his community or my community. Just, just
Have
do
a great rest
something.
of your day. Join. Yeah, just explore. Join. Just do something. Take action. Don't do nothing. Don't let your life pass you by with
Yeah,
doing nothing.
yeah.